Are you new to teaching elementary music, or do you feel like you're just spinning your wheels every day in your classroom? Maybe you're overwhelmed and honestly just don't know where to go for advice and mentorship. Hi, I'm Jessica, and when I'm not drinking all the coffee, watching Razorback sports, or hanging out with my family of boys, it's my passion to help elementary music teachers just like you teach your students by using your unique personality and teaching style. In this podcast, you'll find helpful tips, strategies, and ideas that will help you kick that stress to the curb and begin teaching music with confidence. Let's get started. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. I want to let you know that this episode is a previously aired Facebook Live. So if you hear me say things like leave a comment in the comment section or, oh, hold on, I'm going to take a sip of water or something like that, or you hear me coughing, it's because it came directly from a Facebook Live. But I thought it was so relevant and important that I wanted to share it with you on my podcast as well. So as the school year is approaching and, overwhelm is happening, this episode, I feel like is going to be so relevant for that, to help you go in feeling a little less overwhelmed as there's so much uncertainty and stress heading into the new school year. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. I'm so excited to be here today, and I am going to talk today a little bit about how to start the school year off feeling a bit less overwhelmed. Now, first of all, we're going to identify maybe where your feelings of overwhelm are coming from. First of all, right now, maybe you are not even a little bit ready to think about going back to school. Maybe you just started summer and you're like, listen, this is the last thing I want to think about, and I totally get it. So first of all, what I want to say is completely enjoy your summer. Enjoy your break. Enjoy taking days off and taking time for yourself and with your family. And even if you're not going on a vacation per se, just enjoy taking a break. That's the very first thing. Then when and if, well, I guess when, because you have to at some point, when you're ready or when you know the school year is approaching, it is important at some point to think about going back to school. Now, normally when I have conversations with teachers, it is simply like, here's how to go back to school. Think about all these things. Here's how to not feel overwhelmed. But this year, we know, we're aware that it's going to look a little bit different, right? You may not even know what your teaching situation is going to look like come fall. You maybe don't know yet. Maybe there's like some talks about it could look like this. It might look like this. We're not sure. We'll let you know soon. Or you might have an idea. You may or may not. Either way, that is the first thing that obviously is going to cause overwhelm, right? Is the teaching situation is different. So think about last school year. When you ended the school year for, 2, 3, 4 months, it might have been 5 months for you, you were teaching virtually or were asked to send home paper packets or whatever your other, or I know some of you that have told me that you still were at school, but it was still hard. It was still overwhelming because all of a sudden you're used to teaching a certain way in your classroom and you were thrown in this situation that was like, good luck, right? It was just super sudden. None of us knew COVID was coming and all of a sudden things changed. Well, one of the things I do want to say about going back into the school year, whatever teaching situation, and we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about how to beat the overwhelm going into the school year, whatever your situation looks like. But the first thing I want to say is think about how much you already learned last school year. Think about the things you had to learn quickly and how being thrown in there pretty much like in a blender and felt like you're just like spinning around, having to figure out all these hard things, how to teach kiddos online, and you've never done that before. Think about how you did it just with that much notice. Well, the first thing I want you to think about is going back into the new school year. Whenever you're ready to think about it, okay, you maybe aren't ready. You're especially on a Saturday. You're like, this is the last thing I want to talk about today. I get it. But whenever you move into transitioning your mind from summer back to school, think about how much more prepared you might feel. You maybe don't know how to do all the things still. You maybe still don't have any, clue what your teaching situation is going to look like, but you might feel more prepared just because of the fact that you're going to have more time to think about it. Or you kind of have some technology under your belt now. You're like, okay, I feel a little bit more confident that I know how to use some of these technology things out there, and I know how to set up a virtual classroom. And maybe even if I don't yet, I have an idea of how I can learn to do it, right? Maybe you're one of those teachers that has been told you might be teaching on a cart. And maybe you're like, I have never done this before. I have no idea where to start, what to do, what I even need on a cart. If I'm even going to be able to teach the kids to sing this year, it's overwhelming. There's so many things I know that are spinning around in your head right now that are causing overwhelm for you, not just with work life, but your home life. If you're a parent, you're like, well, what am I going to do with my children if their daycare is closed? How am I going to have work home life balance when I feel like I'm literally going to be working 27,000 hours a day? It's just like, how are you supposed to do it? It's all overwhelming. I'm going to need to take a quick drink of water because I feel a cough. My allergies have been bothering me. I promise it's all it is. Hold on a minute. It's sad I got to say that, but it is what it is. Thank you. I feel like that's like a sippy cup. It's like I don't know. It's an awkward water bottle. But anyways, so I already know, you can tell me in the comments too, you're feeling some major feelings of overwhelm. You're like, I went into being a music teacher, and this is who this is for today. By the way, I forgot to preface that, but you became a music teacher because you want to teach music to kids. Never in your wildest dreams did you think that you're going to be able to set up a classroom and teach music to kids and enjoy creating music with them and go from that to, well, you're either asked to not teach music at all because the kids are already overwhelmed with their workload from their regular classroom, or they were just like, send home anything, or show up occasionally to a Google Classroom or a Zoom call, and then you maybe have one or two of your students show up to meet you there. It's overwhelming for sure. And I'm aware of that. So the first thing I want to say is, as you're going into the school year, how to beat these feelings of overwhelm is to, first of all, this is what I've challenged the teachers going to my challenge, is think about the different situations you could find yourself in. Maybe you're not even sure what that's going to be yet. Okay. So here's what a lot of them were like, well, I don't even know what it's going to be. So here's what I want you to do. Write down, even on a piece of paper, or if you want to be a little more formal, then do Google Doc. It doesn't matter how you do it, but just on a piece of paper, we'll use that example. Write down on a cart, simulcast teaching, virtual teaching, from your home to them, or in your classroom, maybe you're just teaching half of a class at a time, or you still have all the students in there, but they're having some social distance measures in place. So write down any situation you think you may be asked to teach. So have that written down. Then underneath it, write down ways you might do that. Okay. So for example, how are you going to implement classroom management if you're not seeing your students in person? Have you thought about that? And I feel like the reason that question alone overwhelms music teachers is because, let's think about it. If you did the traditional route of becoming a music teacher, our classroom management class in college was have the kids sit, going over rules, procedures, all the things. Well, when you're teaching virtually, for example, you're like, I can't do classroom management that way. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And here's some simple ways. Well, if like right now I'm on a Facebook Live, right? Well, if you're doing any kind of live teaching, then what would you tell your students in the comments to do? Give them instructions. Let them know what you expect of them to do. If you have on a Zoom call, I feel like the biggest, because I'm a mom and I've witnessed this with my own children, the biggest problem with the Zoom class calls is the kids talking over each other, especially when a teacher wouldn't let them know, hey, keep yourself muted. Kids just need to know the rules and expectations just like they would in a classroom. So let them know, hey, keep yourself muted. And then over here in the comments, just type me. Or if it's like a little kid and they don't know how to type the word me, just tell them raise their hand on camera like this, just like they would in a classroom, and you'll call on them to talk. So establish ways that you're going to stuff classroom management, even if you're not seeing them in a regular classroom. So teaching on a cart, how can you have classroom management there? Well, a lot of it is if you're walking into a classroom where the teachers are already teaching, the regular classroom teachers into their classrooms, that a lot of times they're going to already have their own procedures in classroom management in place. Now, is a lot of their procedures going to work for music? Of course not. But the kids already kind of know the rules, and the teacher, a lot of times you can just kind of follow along what's going on in that classroom. Okay. So with classroom management, though, it's going to look different because you may find out that you're not allowed to do any instruments. Your kiddos aren't going to be able to sing at all. You're not allowed to have them moving around the room. They're not allowed to hold hands to do movement activities or whatever. There are ways to definitely still teach music, and I want you to know that. My experience, I started at a school in the middle of the school year, hadn't had music for 7 years. I had no instruments. I didn't let that stop me. Was it overwhelming? Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say I walked in just like this, like, okay, here we go. This is what I expected. No, it wasn't what I expected. And this is not what you expected. And this is what I'm saying is I feel like music teachers can do the hard things. You can. You have already done it. And so whether it's teaching virtually, a classroom management problem that maybe last year didn't go as well as you wanted it to, or maybe with something, with relationships at your school with different colleagues and students that you want to get better, just make a plan for it. That is the main thing, is just knowing and being aware of it so you can make a plan and move forward. So the reason I'm so passionate about helping music teachers teach, even if you don't have anything, or even if you have an unexpected situation dumped in your lap, like last school year leading into this school year, is because I want you to know you can do it. And I feel like what's hard is, especially for music teachers, is you're so used to having your stuff, your instruments, your classroom, your procedures, your schedule. And when all of that's not there, it just makes you feel a little stuck and like, how can I still teach music? This isn't fair. And I just don't like it. Well, of course you don't like it. But the thing is I want you to move forward. And so it's okay to grieve that stuff a little bit and grieve the fact that you don't like the way this is and you want to be back in your classroom making, my puppy just walked behind me, making music with your students the way that you always have. And you're just tired of this. You're ready to just have COVID go away. I totally get it. But is that in your control or out of your control? When your administrator comes to you and says, hey, here's the CDC guidelines, here's what our district or our state has put in place, do you go, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm just not, I don't like this. It's not what I signed up for. Of course you're not going to do that. So look at it and go, this is overwhelming what they're asking me to do. There's no way I can do this. Look at it, have your moment, because you're not a robot, you're a human being, and then go, well, this stinks, but how am I going to move forward with it? What can I do with this situation they've handed me? How am I going to effectively teach music? Even if I don't see very many kids coming to my live videos, what am I going to do? Do I still show up for that one or two students that come? Or do I throw in the towel when I only see one person came? No, you still teach. They're like, okay, you're just going to send home paper packets. Do you say, well, that's not how I want to teach music? Or do you find the most effective ways you can still teach music to your students? Of course you will. Provide ways for them to learn music. One thing that went through my mind, hold on, let me check what he's doing back here. Okay, it's the puppy. You never know. One of the most effective ways for advocating for music right now, I feel, is by COVID-19. I mean, it stinks. Of course, that I don't want COVID to be around at all. But think about how much advocating for music is going on in homes right now without you even realizing it. He's eating the chair. Hey. This is real life right now, you guys. I'm just being honest. So what I mean is, when if you are still asked to send paper packets home with the kids and you're giving them some songs or activities to do at home or websites to go to and create music, think about these parents that are there with them all day, every day. So what's going to happen when little Johnny's over here on a website composing a song and creating his own beats, or he's singing a song and you're asking him to get Tupperware from the cabinets and create a rhythm and make sure, like, play them like they're drums or whatever you're sending home? What are the parents going to do? Oh, I didn't know all that was going on in music class. It's a huge way to advocate for the music program. So think about it that way. Just providing ways for your students to learn music is huge. It's huge. Even if you're not seeing them sing and you're not there to create music with them like you're used to doing, which I know is so hard, you're still providing ways for them to make music. And that's all you can do, right? Remember, we're going to let go of the things that we're not in control of, and we're going to move forward and still be the most effective music teachers we can be. So what else might be causing overwhelm? I'm looking at my notes so I don't miss anything. So if I'm looking down, that's why. Maybe last year, like I said, forming relationships with your students was hard. Maybe you're at a new school, or maybe you just don't know how to effectively do that. Maybe you're like, I don't see these kids enough. How am I supposed to have a relationship with them? You work it in. You work it into what you're teaching. Think about the songs you're teaching that are good ways to have conversations and form relationships with the students, or leave some open space while you're planning to just have conversations with your kids, to where you're not filling every single second from the beginning of the class period to the end of the class period with music, that you're allowing maybe 2 to 5 minutes of space when they're walking in, And when you can't give a high five to the kids because of germs, or you're high fiving them, how was your day? Tell me what was for dinner last night. What book are you reading right now? What did you have a football game last night, or whatever it might look like? Leave open space for those conversations. Make yourself available before and after school if you can to talk to these kiddos. Whatever it might look like, even virtually, reach out through email. Show up on their classes not Facebook Live, on their classes, Google Classrooms. Be available on their calls. If they're not coming to you, come to those kids. You will find ways to be available. And then another thing I want you to think about is, why did you become a music teacher in the first place? To teach music, right? And one of the biggest things I hear music teachers saying right now is, but I'm not teaching music. This isn't what I signed up for. I want to get back in my classroom and teach music to kids. I get it, but you are still teaching music. What is your why? When you could have done anything else in the entire world with your life, and maybe you already did a ton of other things before you transitioned to music. Maybe you got alternatively certified. I know in the challenge right now, there are 3 teachers in there actually, who were general classroom teachers who this coming school year, out of all years, are transitioning to teaching music for the very first time. Talk about feeling overwhelmed. So we talked about ways to move into that and how it's not as different as you think it's gonna be. Yes, there's some differences between having the same class all day versus having different classes all day long. But I want you to know that it is so possible to still teach music. And remembering your why is important, because on those days you feel overwhelmed or stressed and like you can't move forward, or that this is too hard, or these expectations my administration's putting on me, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I'm not qualified for this. I don't know how to use all this technology. Then don't use all the technology. Find 1 or maybe 2 things that work for you and keep it simple. Keep it simple. Are you showing up for your students? Are you trying the best you can? Are you creating ways for them to make music? If so, are you following CDC guidelines? Are you choosing songs that are appropriate and that reach all your students you teach? And making sure that you're, providing ways for equity in your music room. If you're doing those things, that's all you can do. You got to let go of the rest. Let go of the expectations of, this is too hard. I don't want to teach virtually. I want my classroom back. You got to let go of that stuff. And so I know a lot of you, I've heard it. I've heard the comments, but it's so hard. What if my kiddos can't sing this year? What if they can't? Is that in your control or out of your control? So what do you do about that situation? Can you still sing with a mask on? Is that still okay? If so, then you sing, have them listen, and tell them to go home that night and practice the song. While you're singing, instead of them just sitting there staring at you, they can hum. Can they hum the song? Can they pat the steady beat while you're singing? Is there a way for them to feel the rhythm while you're singing the song? Can they, at their desk or tables, if you're going into their classroom, can they play something on their desk or table while you're singing? If none of you are allowed to sing, then have them listen to the song. Play it on some kind of, through your iPhone even, or on the smart board if you're traveling to a classroom and it's already in there. Play a song, have the kids listen to it, have them same thing, go home and sing it later. And tell them, this is what I want you to do, and I'll be able to tell you practice the song, because when you come back, we're going to be adding some really cool body percussion activities to this. I have a really neat movement activity to add while you're at your desk, since we can't move around. If your kids can sing, but there's guidelines in place, and they're not allowed to stand by each other, or even touch or stand too close, have them face the wall. Someone made a really good point today I didn't even think about. She said, by the kids facing the wall even, they are able to hear themselves better, because think about the what is the word I'm looking for? I'm just going to use the word sounds, because I know reverberations or something is what I'm looking for and I can't find the word. But the sounds that are bouncing off the walls that are going to have them hear themselves. It's really it's going to sound beautiful. It's going to be awkward, because how many times as an elementary music teacher are you saying, eyes on me, look at me, I'm teaching you, hello. But you can still informally assess your kiddos. Walk around with your ear to their back while you're listening to them sing, if they're allowed to. Notice I keep saying the word if, because the guidelines you're given, the expectations you're given, what your administrator, your school district, your state asks you to do is not going to be like another teacher. So get ideas from other people, but you still have to keep in mind that the expectations that are set on you, what your unique teaching style is, who you are as a person, and what students do you teach. All of that factors into planning this coming school year. All right. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, What else is causing overwhelm? Well, work-home life balance. Maybe it wasn't balanced last year. And one of the best examples I can give about work-home life balance that helped me tremendously is, instead of thinking about it like this, think about it like this, and then it goes like this, and it fluctuates. Where, for instance, today is a work day for me. Do I ever work on Saturdays? No, but I am right now because I just finished a challenge. Harmony Doors just opened up, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But today is more of a work day for me, but I'm going to cut off early so I can have some family time. Some days I just have family time. Some days is more work, but at the end of the week, can I look back and say I've invested into what I need to do and invest in at the right time? Of course. The same goes for you. And I know what's weird right now is you're used to being handed a schedule and you're used to being told, teach these classes this time of day all day long. Here's your plan time. Here's your lunch. Here's where whatever duty you have, whether it's car or bus duty or whatever else. And then when you're teaching virtually from your home, or you're even asked to send home paper package, you're like sitting there twiddling your thumbs like, well, what else can I do? I don't feel like I'm being an effective teacher. Is this normal? Yeah, because back to let go of the expectations. You're used to filling up every minute of your day, but you're not going to need to right now. What else could you do at that time? Maybe that is your time to explore your lesson plans that maybe went well or didn't go so well. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow, by the way. I'm coming back and I'm hoping to not cough tomorrow on Facebook Live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, by the way. But yeah, this is the time to maybe look through your lesson plans. If you're not having as much time to show up to teach for kiddos, what other things can you do? What are things you've always wanted to get done pertaining to teaching or in your home life you just haven't had time to? Take the time right now to do that without feeling guilty about it at all, okay? Organize your task list better. Put things on your calendar. Make sure they're written down so they get done. Go through the resources you have, and maybe you have like 50 resources to teach from, and there's no way to get through everything. So what can you do this summer? Maybe go through and say, I'm going to go through the things and really pull out the most relevant activities for my kiddos. And I'm not going to do the rest. Then when you start learning new activities and things at levels courses or workshops, you can add them in. You can always change things up as you go. And when you're teaching virtually or on a cart, there are ways to adapt lesson plans. Even if, it's a song. And I already talked about, if you can't sing it, you can still teach that song. Have the kids listen to it. They can instead of singing and around, they can do movement and around. They can do a body percussion and around. I think this year with elementary music, it needs to be really, the things music teachers need to think about is it's going to probably look more like a general music class like you would see in a middle school setting, but obviously modified to fit elementary students. And SEL is so important, and equity in music education. These are the things to focus on right now, you guys. This is what you need. So if you have more time when your schedule's not full as the school year goes on, think about those things. Am I meeting my kiddos where they need to be met emotionally? These kids are going through a lot. Have I really focused on that? Have I tried to find songs that meet them where they're at emotionally and tried to do activities? And have I talked to them and interacted with them and formed relationships? And part of classroom management is not just about rules and procedures, but really forming a relationship with your kids. Have I really gone through the stuff I've taught? Have I just taught these songs and lessons just because they've always been taught and I was told to teach them, or I was handed down this, lessons from wherever, without really doing my own investigating about, is it appropriate to teach or is it offensive? Look at the stuff you're teaching. This is the perfect time to do that right now. So with that said, you can start the school year off feeling less overwhelmed. I know you're like, listen, this is the most overwhelmed I've ever felt in my life. And I've been teaching music for 20 years, you might be saying to me. And because maybe you're like, I don't even know what my school year is going to look like next year. They haven't even told me. They haven't even told me if I'm going to be teaching music at all. I know that I've heard every situation, from your classroom's going to be used for a general classroom setting, from you've been asked to teach outside, virtually, on a cart, simulcast teaching, no teaching music at all, or all of the above, or music combined with something else. I've heard it all. I really have. I am so compassionate to that. And I can't imagine what you're feeling and going through, thinking, how am I supposed to prepare for this? But I just really do think you can. I do think it's going to take time. Give yourself a lot of grace, understanding, and patience to know that this is hard. I've never done this before. But think about all the other music teachers and teachers in general and parents who are going through this right along with you. This is unprecedented times. None of us have ever faced this. I, in fact, for my own children, by July 6th, have to sign a paper saying if they're going to be learning virtually at home or if I'm sending them to school. I'm on the fence. If I can be honest with you, I don't know. So I'm telling you, families, along with teachers, are dealing with the overwhelm too. It is overwhelming, but I've had to tell myself that. Let go of the, I wish this wasn't this way. I don't want my fourth grader, well, actually fifth grader, wow, to wear a mask at school. He's in a special needs class. I can't imagine those kids going to school wearing masks all day. How is their teacher going to explain that to them? I know it's hard. I know it stinks, but you have to understand that your kiddos are going through so much right now. Emotionally, mentally, they don't get it. They don't understand. They miss the old way of school. They miss going to PE. They're going to miss going to lunch if they're not allowed to go to the lunchroom. I know we've been told around here that the recess may not even happen. It is ridiculous. And I know it's so hard. So please just keep in the back of your mind when you're feeling overwhelmed, it's not just you. Reach out, ask for help, reach out to me, reach out. There's so many amazing music educators online with blogs and podcasts and on Instagram. The Instagram community is strong. Go on there, ask questions to any of us. Please don't feel like you're in this alone. If you're feeling overwhelmed, write down your feelings. What's causing the overwhelm and how can you move forward? Because the worst thing you can do, I feel like, is stay stuck. Okay? Don't stay stuck. Figure out how you're going to move forward and then do it successfully as the school year goes. The last thing I want to say is think about when you were a first year teacher. And maybe you're watching this and you're watching the replay even, and you're going into your first year teaching. And did you know what you're doing right away? I did not. I had no idea. Okay. It was a lot of trial and error, figuring it out as I went, going, that didn't work. Let's not do that anymore. So it was a lot of just getting in there and doing it. And that's what you need to remind yourself of right now. You are not going to know how to do everything perfectly. And if you're an overachiever like I am, you're hard on yourself and you're like, but I want to do it all right. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have good, big goals and want to do things, the right way. But give yourself grace. Are you going to mess up? Yes. Are you going to make mistakes? Of course you are. Do you need to dwell on it and beat yourself up about that? No. Learn from it. Every mess up and mistake, I feel like it's a huge growth opportunity. You speak about growth mindset to your students all the time. So why would you not do the same for yourself? If you get in there and you're like, you open a Google Classroom and you're sitting there going, well, set one up. What do I do now? Learn. You just go in there and do it and go, well, I do know how to spell my name. I'll do that first. Okay. How do I put a class list in here? I'm not sure. How do I put an assignment in here? What am I supposed to do? I want them to watch a video, but how do I put it in here? Just give yourself step by step and grace and learn as you go. Okay. That was just one example, but I just wanted to come on here today and encourage you that you can do this.
Thank you so much for listening in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, I would love for you to review the show and leave a rating on iTunes. To find out more about how I can help you gain momentum in your elementary music teaching career, head to thedomesticmusician.com, where you'll find free downloads, courses, the blog, and so much more. Continue teaching music and never doubt the impact you're making each and every day in the lives of your students.